Good day, folks. Everything new under the sun. Are the four horsemen of the apocalypse riding right now as revealed in Revelation chapter 6? I don't think so. I think you will be surprised about how serious things get before they are actually riding. I believe they ride in the first half of the 7 year period. The first half, the first 3.5 years is the tribulation. The second 3.5 years is the Great Tribulation. And I believe currently, again, that doesn't come. The four horsemen ride in the first 3.5 years after the Antichrist is in power. Maybe they start up at the same time, but I think there's a time period where they have to ride and do what they will, and that includes war, economic collapse, global famine, and great struggle for everybody in this world. And I think, too, that World War III or some sort of it, or economic collapse, just like in 1929, has to occur before the world accepts an Antichrist figure, a leader, because at some point they're going to be calling for peace and safety and for a savior and for a leader to come and help them. And that's not going to come until everybody is on their knees. Now, some incredible stuff is happening. Ukraine and Russia is still ongoing. I have to be careful about what I talk about because YouTube, other social media will start cracking down on this as we get closer to war, World War III specifically. And I think we're in the middle of it. It's already started. Just hasn't been labeled as such by the historians yet. But as we get closer to that, they will start cracking down on misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, also known as propaganda back in the day, and they will crack down on that, and they won't let people speak their mind because there will be a single narrative that needs to be put across the airwaves. All the people will need to follow a single narrative, and so they will cut off people like me. The rumbles of the world will not exist at that point. The governments will come down on it at that point. Cryptocurrencies will not be around at that point. The governments will come and outlaw that and limit that, just like they did. How good was cryptocurrency during the trucker convoy in Ottawa, Canada? Wasn't very good. It still existed, but the government effectively prevented any use of it and put holds on it, effectively not allowing it to be converted into Canadian currency. And so things like that, if you don't hold it, you don't own it, comes into play. Similar with, PMs. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. And when things go sideways, you will be left with only what you have. And worse than that, as the Israelis found out, many that were taken hostage, they were left with literally what was on their body at the time that they were taken. And it's an incredible situation happening there. Let's take a look at a couple of things. This is Zero Hedge. 27 Americans apparently taken out by Hamas, according to Canada and Jolie, Foreign Affairs Minister. There are three. I think it's three. Let's see. Let's scroll down here. 3 Canadians missing in the region. 3 Canadians identified as killed in Israel. So almost every country now has a part of this. They're involved in it in some manner. So is this considered a world war when citizens are being killed from every nation? Let's take a look at this. This is Harbinger's Daily. Unprecedented events in Israel are a reminder for Christians to get ready. Well, what's coming? What's coming is the 7-year period, the tribulation and the Great Tribulation. The Great Tribulation is the wrath of God. The first 3.5 years is where the Antichrist rules and reigns for a period after saving the world, supposedly for a temporary period of time, saving the world out of World War III and economic collapse and famine. But the real stuff is going to hit shortly after that, I believe. So buckle up. I did a couple shorts about getting food from restaurant providers, wholesale providers. Good way to get large bulk food, and at a much cheaper rate, per 100 grams, whatever, per kilogram, than you will at your local Sobeys or whatever store you like to shop at. Walmart, for that reason. And by the way, get white flour. It lasts a very long time. It doesn't go bad like brown flour does, whole wheat flour. And get a bag of rice. These are things that will take you through hard times and last a long time in the cupboard and cool, dark, dry spaces. You need to stockpile that. You need to get that now. Time is running out. If World War III starts, the first thing that they're going to take out is communications. Once communications are out, nothing is going to be moving. Trucks aren't going to be moving. Airports aren't going to be moving. All these need command and control centers. All these need communication, GPS communication, to get trucks from point A to point B. If you take out all communications, the supply chain is crippled. It will not be moving. Gas stations won't be able to call or inform, the gas depots that they need refills on their tanks. So the gas pumps will run dry, and they won't be able to communicate that they need anything. Everything will be slowed down majorly. There will be chaos when people can't contact their relatives, families, loved ones. There will be chaos. It will be Mad Max. There's no other word to describe it. It may not be like the Mad Max movies, but it will be Mad Max in the streets. People will be desperate. People will be crazed. People will be doing odd things. By the way, in the last days, violence increases. This is a slide from my timeline of the return of the Lord. Look at the third arrow from the right side there. Love grows cold. And that's Matthew chapter 24. And because iniquity shall abound, has there been iniquity shown in Israel? Iniquity is sin. Sin is evil. Because evil abounds, the love of many shall wax cold. Is the love of the Israelis for, human life getting a little bit chilled? Yeah, because they want retaliation. They're hot with anger, and they're trying to find justice and create their own justice. Now, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to say they can or can't do what they're doing. I think at the end of the day, as Christians, we ultimately need to forgive and forget. And that even comes to when someone kills your neighbor, your family member. I mean, ultimately, that's going to be in God's hands. Ultimately, that is in God's hands. That's why the last half of the 7-year period, the wrath of God is coming. That is going to bring justice on all the evildoers. But I think there is. I'm not going to go there. Anyways, violence, love grows cold, and then government control, total government control, and this is what the Antichrist brings to himself: total government control. Let's continue on here. So yes, Christians need to be aware of this. We are in the last days. You need to buckle up. Time is short. You are running out of time to get ready, to get your hearts ready, to get your house, your family in order, your preparations done. If you're expecting to do anything, and I'm not even saying any preparations are going to be any good when this stuff does go sideways. It could be that your house is, pillaged and all your food taken. We don't know if that's going to happen or not. But if that happens, maybe you've got another prep. Maybe you have MREs or food stores buried somewhere else, which may help. Or maybe you have family and friends who have also been preparing, where you may be able to go and they can share. We don't know which part of our preps are going to be useful, either for us or for neighbors. And that's why we need to kind of hedge all the bets, make sure we're prepared in many different ways. That includes self-defense and storage of food and gardening, planting, and having animals and having alternate power sources. When people go driving by and they see a whole pile of solar panels in your backyard, they may just say, "Oh, that's maybe a house we want to look into. He seems to be prepared. They seem to have power. Maybe we can charge our walkie-talkies there." And so that will be tempting to roaming gangs who are desperate for power, for food, for energy in the last days. Think of Waterworld, where there was this ship, and it had It was the only location, for power and for food. Everybody was looking at it, looking for it, and everybody was on it, and there was no other place to go. And this is what's going to happen. People will, like mouths to a light, people will be looking for that in the last days as things go sideways. Hamas leader, this is something you need to be ready for. Global Muslim uprising, day of rage, Friday. Um, a screenshot on X shows Khalid Mashal, former leader and founding member of Hamas, who allegedly called on Muslims earlier this week to unleash a day of rage on Friday. So it's been translated, and it says, translated by Brother Rashid, a former Muslim, now a follower of Christ. And the key points shared by the speech by Mashal: to show anger, especially next Friday in Muslim countries and also among Muslim diaspora around the world. He called it Friday Al-Aqsa Flood. He asked for financial help from all Muslims. So you start, filtering money into the area to support this war is what he's asking. He asked for political pressure from Muslim leaders and Muslim nations. Well, all the Muslim diaspora and neighborhoods start rising up and start putting that pressure on the governments to do something about this. Remember, in the last days, all nations surround Israel. There is none that stands with Israel at that point, and that's why God has to come in and save them. And that's what leads them to the point where they say, we have nobody else we can rely on. We can't rely on the United States of America. We call on God. That's in Revelation. That's in the last days. That's going to happen. They will turn back to God, but it's going to come at a time when everybody else has given up on them. And is it the case that either the nations that supported Israel are taken out of existence, made by nuclear weapons, Russia, etc., taking the United States out and Western nations, or is it simply by the Muslim minorities or other minorities that are pushing the nations politically to denounce Israel and to take support away from them? Right now, Western countries are denouncing Hamas. But in the biblical end times, it describes a time when governments of the world are not denouncing Hamas, they're denouncing Israel, and they will not support Israel, and they will not come to the aid of Israel when the nations surround Israel. So that's the next step, folks. You see some support now as, what's his name? I forget what his name is. Sarfati, as he said, what's going to happen next is that people will start removing support for Israel because they will start naming atrocities by Israel in Gaza. Now, the IDF, Israeli army, has been trying to limit any civilian casualties. There's only been, I think, 1,500 or 2,000 to this point, but they've almost leveled northern Gaza. Why is that? Well, because they're targeting specific locations where there's minimum amount of civilians and maximum amount of Hamas. They're going after Hamas ultimately, but there's always collateral damage with these things, as in any war. So that's going to be the case where the whole world turns against Israel at some point. And we could be seeing this. If they go all out and destroy Gaza and take it over again, we could see the whole world turning against them very, very quickly, folks. It's coming. There's already chatter about this. While they are denouncing Palestinian support right now and flag waving in the UK and other places, the woke left is still there. They will come against the rest of the people and say, no, we need to support the Palestinians. We need to support, these other suppressed groups, and they will come against Israel in these last days. It's going to turn quick, folks. The tide will turn. The most important thing, he asked all Muslims around the world to carry jihad by their souls, to fight and be martyrs. What does martyr mean? Basically, he wants all Muslims to die for their faith. And that's what Christians should be willing to do as well. But we are soft, unfaithful, so-called Christ followers, especially the Western Christians, myself included. Our faith is not very strong. Will we follow Christ to the death? The Muslims, those followers of Islam, they're ready to follow Muhammad to the death. Just like they are being called to become martyrs for Al-Aqsa, we need to be ready to lay down our lives for others, just as Jesus Christ laid down his life for us. but we need to do it in peace. So this is an incredible event. By the way, so this is he is calling for this Friday. So when is Friday? Well, the current time in Israel is 10 p.m. Thursday the 12th. So in a few hours, it will be Friday. And so watch for this as, later tonight or as you wake up in the morning in the Western world, for there to be riots and demonstrations around the world and further support moving in, and loud voices supporting Palestine, Gaza, and that side of thing, and really negative, and even calling for destruction of Israel, and that's all going to be tomorrow, folks. So this is a jihad. This is a holy war, and this is what they've called it, and this is what others have called it. So let's see. This is an article from endoftheamericandream.com. Get ready because the U.S. is going to war in the Middle East. I think that makes a lot of sense. We are on the precipice of a regional war in the Middle East, and the U.S. military is going to be involved. Of course, if this war is just limited to a fight between Israel and Hamas, there would be no need for U.S. military. But, and this is where the U.S. comes in, Hezbollah is another matter entirely. Hezbollah possesses extremely powerful military, and they have an arsenal of approximately 130,000 missiles ready to be fired at Israel. If Hezbollah enters the war and starts firing thousands upon thousands of missiles at Israel, the United States will take action. So the U.S. has come out and, as I understand, have basically said, Israel, you take care of Hamas and Gaza, and if Hezbollah starts, we will help you out on the northern border, and we will hold Iran back from striking, and we will be a defense there. Note that there's 3 carrier groups in the Mediterranean, the Red Sea, and was it Gulf of Oman or somewhere. 3 carrier groups there, all just taking tension and carrier groups away from Russia, Ukraine. This means Russia kind of has a blank check right now since the media is not watching it, and so no one cares because the biggest latest thing is Israel and Gaza. But this is gearing up to be a massive thing, and these wars are flaring up, wars and rumors of wars, just as the Bible speaks of. But the end is not yet. These things must come to pass, and so this is gonna hit out. This is gonna increase the price of oil and gas. This is going to increase energy prices all over. This is going to further exacerbate the economic crisis. And as we go further, folks, we will head into famine. All money and resources will be diverted into war, just as it was in World War II. And you and I will be eating, simply the potatoes we grew in our garden. And there will be famine amongst the land, and trials and tribulations, just as the Bible describes. This is jpost.com, Jerusalem Post. Follow this. Israel is at war. Here's an article about, you can read the headline there in the left-hand side, the photos of babies. It's terrible. And yet people are on the side of Hamas and the terrorists and against Israel. So it's incredible, folks. Is this World War III? I think we started World War III, and this is just a further escalation of it in another area of the world. There's too many fronts for any nation to fight, and so everybody's going to be fighting against everybody, and we don't know when this will go down. That's why you need to be prepared with backup power, with some food, with some self-defense items, whatever you have, whatever is legally obtainable in your location. Get what you can. If you need another box of seeds, if you know what I mean, then, go get another box. Anyways, I'll leave it there. This situation will continue to escalate. We are in the last days. I think we get to a point in this conflict where things will be so bad, we'll be in the middle of economic collapse and World War III, where people will be desperate and on their knees. It will be so bad that people will cry out for a world leader. And who will step to the forefront? Well, a man who will ultimately be possessed by the devil himself. known in the Bible as the Antichrist, who will work along with the false prophet to lead the world, a one world system, and promote a one world currency via the mark of the beast. And he will control the world for 3.5 years until the abomination of desolation at the midpoint. The midpoint where that green rapture arrow is, that is also the abomination of desolation. This is the line God draws in the sand, I believe, as I understand it, to where God says, that's it. It's blasphemous. He sat on the throne in the third temple. The Antichrist did. And then the wrath of God falls. The Christians are taken out because we will not be here for the wrath of God. We will be here for a lot of tribulation, a lot of trouble. But we are taken out at that time. And we need to look up because our redemption draws nigh. It doesn't say our redemption is here. It says when you see these things begin to happen, look up because our redemption is getting close. This is a wake-up time. This is to say to the Christians, get ready, get prepared. Things are going to get hard. You will not be here for the wrath of God, but there will be some troublesome times where men's hearts are failing them for fear of things coming upon them in these last days. Folks, I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.